I'm here with Layla. Sophie, the older dog, who's a little bit submissive, is over there. Layla has only been in the house for a week, and basically she is displaying some resource guarding tendencies. And so in this video, I'm going to cover some the approach that I like to use when I have a dog that is guarding a resource. Now, resource guarding can occur for a lot of different things. It could be a bone or a bully stick like this. It could be a location. It could be a person. Often it is food, but it doesn't have to be. It could be any of these things, or it could be a combination of these. Now, basically, a resource guarding is not aggression. A lot of people interpret it as aggression. It is not aggression. It's guarding resources, which in the wild is appropriate and completely natural for dogs to do. If I have a chicken, I'm on a desert island, somebody tries to take my chicken, I'm going to guard the chicken because I need that as a resource to survive. And that's basically what's going on with dogs. Now, we have to teach them, because they live in our world, that they don't need to guard resources, but when we have multiple dogs, sometimes this happens. Now, in this case, I think part of it is we didn't have a lot of structure in the house. We have a new dog who's trying to assert himself, or herself, excuse me, and we have a submissive dog. So I'm hoping it's not truly a case of resource guarding, and just the leader-follower dynamic shift that we talked about will help off camera, will help by incorporating rules, petting with a purpose, passive training, and rewarding desired behaviors, will help the dog see the humans as authority figures, will help her relax and not challenge as much, and build up her confidence. But in this case, I'm going to assume that this is resource guarding. I'm going to go over the technique that we use. So in this case, what I'm going to do is, this is the dog that is guarding the resource. Now, if she has something and then another dog approaches, she growls the other dog as a way of saying, I want you to leave me alone. I want you to stop coming close because I have something, and I interpret your movement towards me as trying to take my object. So in this lesson, what we want to do is teach the dog that when another dog approaches you, they're not going to take your stuff. Matter of fact, when they approach you, it means your situation gets better. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to give her this bully stick, and we're going to give her a second to kind of chew on it. Now we've got Layla over there on a leash as well. I have both dogs on a leash because I want to make sure it stays safe. Now in a second, I'm going to give our camera woman a signal. She's going to get up and transition back there, and we're going to have Layla approach us. Now before we do this, we want to get her into this. So let's go ahead and have you transition now and kind of walk backwards. Put your back butt all the way on the door, or your back to the door. So we want this dog to get into whatever the item is. If it's food, we're going to let her take a bite or two. If it's a bully stick like this, we're going to get a couple of good bites in. Now, you're going to find that there's going to be a certain distance when the other dog approaches that triggers a response. It's important to note the distances. So what I'm going to do is now, she's chewing on the stick, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop this. And as soon as she goes for it, I want you to start walking her towards here. When I want this bully stick instead. How about this? Okay, turn around and go back. Now this is a little bit hard because of this area for the camera view, but what we want her to think is when the other dog approaches, something good happens. She's not trying to take my stuff, she's trying to make my situation better. And teaching your dog to drop, this is a quick little lesson of how you can teach your dog to drop. See how she's turning away? I'm just holding it. I'm not trying to take it, but I'm putting this right in front of her nose. Now this is a high value item. So it's harder for her to want to drop it. She wants to try to eat it real quick first. So for this little trick, what I would do is when your dog has a low value item, you want to basically, when they have the chewing on a bone or a ball, put this right in front of their nose, a really high value training treat. Don't say anything. Wait for them to drop it. They'll try to take it with the object in their mouth. Wait for them to drop it. As soon as they do, pop the treat in their mouth and say the word drop. You practice enough with low value items, then when the dog has a high value item, they get in the habit, they're just happy to do it. Let's see if we can achieve this one here. Oh no, you're going to chew that whole thing up. All right, so in this case, we won't actually have the dog with a bone. It's okay for this demonstration purpose. Now, another way that we do this is a counterconditioning class that I was talking about. She has also displayed some dog aggression, and we have a counterconditioning class we do every Sunday in Omaha. What we do is I take the high-value tricky trainer treat here, I'm smashing it like a pancake, and I'm going to let the dog chew on it. As she's licking it, there we go. Now if you notice, I can change, Boxers have a little bit of an underbite, would make it a little bit more challenging. So I can change her orientation by moving the treat. I can get her to look in different directions. So the idea for this is I want to smash it and let her chew on it while the other dog is approaching. Now this is okay for our counterconditioning class. It wouldn't be appropriate for this because she's chewing on a bone, and that's what causes her to be a resource guarder when Sophie approaches. So what we want to do is make sure that she can't get to Sophie. So that's why I have her on a leash. You don't have to have a dog on a leash for this sort of technique. I just like to do it to make sure she's safe. Now, if you're by yourself, you can like tether the leash around a post or something like that so the dog can't get to if it's only one of you because you have to handle the other dog. Now, Sophie probably isn't going to want to come and approach her when she has something because she already knows that lesson. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to let her chew on this. If we can get her chewing on it. All right, we'll just pop it in your mouth. So, all right, well, let me just describe what's going on because it's going to be hard to actually demonstrate. So what we do is when she's here with the bone, we're going to have her on a leash, and we're going to have Sophie on a leash. We're going to have Sophie start walking, and as Sophie comes by, we're going to drop the treat. Now, let's say we're starting Sophie at 15 feet away, and we get to 10 feet, she starts getting stiff. Signs to look for are getting stiff, baring the teeth, licking the lips, the hackles on the hair on their back standing up, the tail going up, the ears coming forward, holding their breath or breathing really heavily, and a stare with a lowered head. Any one of those things by itself isn't necessarily a sign, but you see a combination of those, that's a warning to Sophie, you're getting too close. Especially a lot of times I'm chewing, stiff and freeze and hold my breath. That's a big warning. So you're getting close enough, close to my breaking point. So what we're going to do is go ahead and bring Sophie over. And go ahead and turn away. So what I'm doing is while Sophie is approaching, I'm giving her these high-value train treats. I'd prefer to have her chewing on it, but if I just have to pop it in her mouth, that works. So when Sophie approaches me, she stops before she gets to the distance that causes me to react, and I get these delicious treats that I don't get at other times. And then right as the treat's about to be gone, Sophie turns and walks away. So when Sophie's approaching me when I have an object, I don't want her to be here, so I'm growling and showing these aggressive tactics to get her to move away. When that's going on, I'm delivering a reward. Then when the thing that I want to have happen, Sophie turns away, the treats disappear. So what we're saying is when Sophie approaches you and you have stuff, she's not here to take your stuff, she's here to make your situation better, because when she approaches you, treats literally fall from the sky. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have you shift on this side. I'm going to have you walk kind of down here. And if you can keep Sophie in the middle. And go ahead and come. And then turn around and go away. Now, this is, like I said, a little bit interesting because we have a kind of corridor. Inside makes things more amplified. If you're outside, the dog has more escapability, more room to run away. So you need to make sure you're taking note of the distance, and when you're repeating this, you want to keep on repeating it so that before she has a chance to react, the other dog is going away. Now first, maybe she starts at 15 feet, she only gets to 10 feet, and then goes away. And then maybe if you go to 9 feet, she starts growling or displaying other signs that she's starting to get to a transition stage where she's going to react. Well, then we move her away, we stop playing this game, we take away the object, and we let her relax, and we come back to next time. Next time we start at 10 feet, we go to 9 feet, and if 9 feet, maybe we only go to 9 feet 2 or 3 times, and then that's as far as we can go. Then next time we start at 9 feet and go to 8 feet. The idea is to gradually collapse the distance. Now if your dog is eating food when another dog is approaching, you can take a can of wet dog food. Let her start eating it. Once she's eaten a couple bites, then I take a long, if you're worried about the dog biting, you have a really long stem spoon. But then you plop in some of this wet food. So when Sophie approaches me, my food gets better. When Sophie approaches me, I get the high-value treats to fall from the sky. Somebody's feeding a treat into my mouth. So we're creating a positive association. So you can do this if it's a location. You want to make sure that the dog if this is the guarding location, the other dog we have on the leash, just probably because it's not going to want to come, we want to make sure that it comes appropriately and it doesn't squirt away. And I have this dog on the leash to make sure it can't go. We want to make sure it stays safe. Now this is a process where it takes a lot of repetition. The key is you can't push too far. If you push too far and she reacts, you invalidated all the work that you did. So it's better to go slow and conservative and gradually elongate it and do it every day or a couple times a day and basically exterminate or extinguish the behavior for good permanently than to push too far one day, because then we're really going to get set back and we're going to have to increase the distance. Now for some dogs it's the distance, some dogs it's the speed, some situations it can be the volume. So there's other variables. We might use another one where we turn down the intensity to help this dog relax, if that makes sense. So now again, the best way to do it for dogs that are approaching, and this is what we do in our counterconditioning class, is let the dog get in the habit of chewing. She's thinking if she licks it, she's going to get it. There we go. So now she's starting to figure it out. Now if your dog is a big dog like a Great Dane, these guys are on the line, these are pretty small training treats. We might go get a piece of roast beef that's a little bit longer, maybe like 3 inches long, just to get, and that, you know, we could, instead of a deli meat or, you know, sliced really thin, it's a big chunk. So we can kind of like stick it into the dog's mouth like a push-up, and there's more and more, and they know there's more, so they're more interested in this than the dog that's approaching me. Let's try one more time. There you go. So you want to help her practice chewing on it a couple times before you bring the other dog, so she gets used to that. Especially boxers or certain breeds have an underbite, makes it a little bit harder for them to chew. All right, so this is how we can use counter conditioning to help a dog that has a resource guarding problem. Oh, before I forget, one last thing that's pretty important actually. We don't want to always just use this orientation. Like I talked about off camera, this is confrontational, front facing. Sometimes sideways is more approachable. Now for dogs with resource guards, maybe I'm reactive if I can see you, or maybe I'm reactive if I can't see you. So for this sort of process, what you want to do is you want to approach this angle, then eventually from this angle, this angle, this angle. So we're approaching from all sorts of different angles and all sorts of distances. And in each time, the end result is nobody takes your stuff, and you get these high, we improve the situation. What do you think? Layla. Well, this is basically not a short video, but this is a short video about how you can use counter conditioning to stop your dog from being a resource guard.